Man United podcast with Bids and Monty. Here we go again. Another episode of the Man United podcast. Monty, first thing I want to ask you is, how is your isolation period going, brother?
I'm coming to the end of it.
Good.
And let me tell you, it has been a roller coaster, man, full of emotions. And you know what? I thought it wasn't going to hit me as hard.
Yeah.
Because I felt the first lockdown better. But then I realized when we were in lockdown, first time round, we were allowed to still go out and do one bit of exercise.
Yeah.
But isolation is completely different, man. I can't even open my door. I was scared to open my door.
You can go in your back garden, bro.
I didn't even want to do that, mate. I was scared.
No. Have you been feeling well, though? You've been feeling good?
No, apart from that, I've been lucky.
Yeah.
Enough to say that.
Yeah, I agree.
The only thing I've had was a bad headache at the start.
Yeah.
Body ached a bit, and I lost my sense of taste and smell. But
you got that back now, right? You got that back, right?
Huh?
Yeah. You got that back now. You got that back.
Yeah, I've got.
I've lost your hearing as well. Have you lost your sense of hearing? I think you have, mate.
No, but you know what? The sense of smell and taste luckily came back. Yesterday or 2 days ago. So my missus was cooking something, and I've gone. I can smell it. And it was lucky because she was making pepper steak, and I was like, "Yo,
boom!" You know what they say about steak night, bro? You know what they say about steak night?
No, I don't know. No English, mate. No English. But yeah, no, I can't. I'll feel bad to moan about my isolation because I've been lucky enough.
Yeah, man, I agree.
To experience the full shebang of it.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky. I'm blessed, man, and I'm happy that it wasn't as bad as what I feared at first.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful, man. I just can't wait to get back to football now.
Not long, mate. Not long.
Not long, man.
Let's see some bangers from you, bro. That's what you want.
What, a bit of South using that?
Yeah, today we've got two wonderful teachers on. One of which is anonymous. Mr. T. Mr. T, baby. And the other is a guy. Go on. What are you saying?
Yeah, I did. When he first joined the screen, he was Mr. X.
Mr. X at night, Mr. T in the day. And we've got Martin Kerr on as well, who I actually know quite well. Played football with him when I was younger. So it's a good catch up. And we've all come together as one. Kapoom! So, Martin, introduce yourself, man. What is it you're doing?
So I'm Martin Kerr. I teach high school English and drama. I've been teaching for 12 years. So I teach at the school that I went to as a pupil.
Sweet.
So all of my educational life has been kind of in one building.
Yeah.
So yeah, love the job. I was saying before we started, it's the best job in the world, this. So delighted to come on and have a chat and talk about teaching. Can't wait,
man. So we'll get into why I've got you guys on anyway. But Mr. T, what is it you do?
Primary school teaching, Bids.
Primary school.
Primary with the little ones. I've been teaching for around 8-9 years. Before qualified, I did a little bit of high school actually, doing some cover for a few years.
Yeah. How'd you find that?
I've actually been in both. Yeah. Hard. Both got different challenges, but both very, very rewarding at the same time as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. So the reason why I want to get the teachers involved and get them on the podcast is because over this lockdown period, especially, and it can probably go further back, but over this period that we're in, I've seen a lot of negative things getting out there about teachers. I mean, so I want to get him on to talk about how tough this job is, and basically how tough it's been during lockdown, and what challenges has brought with that. So let's go to our school. What challenges has it brought for you?
So for me, it's been the lack of day-to-day contact with the pupils.
Yeah.
I'm a teacher first and foremost. That's what I get paid for. But I think one of the best parts of my job is being a form tutor as well. So I have a group of pupils that I kind of look after. So I give pastoral support to, and I've done that all the way through.
Yeah.
And not seeing them every single day has been a real challenge, because I just know how hard it's affecting them, and the lives that some of the pupils have got outside of school.
Yeah.
School's kind of like a safety net for a lot of pupils, and to have that taken away from them has meant that they're actually in a position where they're quite vulnerable, and you can't do the same level of pastoral support through a Zoom screen.
No,
just doesn't work. But yeah, the day-to-day challenges of teaching, I'm kind of used to it now, because we've had like nearly 12 months of it. I know we went back for a little bit in September. But yeah, the social isolation away from colleagues and the pupils, yeah, that's been really tough. Really tough.
I bet that the whole feel around the school's just different, is it?
Yeah. There's a lot of anxiety with staff and pupils, and my form group are year 11s.
Yeah.
So they are right at the forefront of they're stressed, they're anxious, they don't know what the future's going to hold for them. They've worked for 4.5 years now towards this end result.
Yeah.
And they don't know what that end result's going to be.
Well, it's building the future, isn't it? It's a massive step from our school to wherever they go next, which is college, or some might just go straight into apprenticeships. But it's a massive step, and like that 4 years of hard graft, as all of a sudden it's come to uncertainty of what's going to happen in the next like few months, because they've only got a few months left in year 11, right?
Yeah, and it was I think it was when Boris announced this national lockdown. I can't remember what time it was, sometime in the evening. My inbox for my emails just was on fire with my tutor group asking what it means. Because he said in that announcement that exams were cancelled. So automatically they're then thinking that the 4 years of work they've done, and then the 5 years at primary school, and all of this, everything they've done on this educational journey is then going to be wasted. Because like last year's year 11, the ones who had that whole palaver of the algorithm and everything the government were trying to do
that sounded like an absolute nightmare.
Oh, honestly, I've never experienced anything like it.
Yeah.
And I might come back to that later, but just like the ones currently, they were told the exams were cancelled, and then there's going to be a consultation, and then the education secretary has then said, well, actually, we might do an exam. So there's no clarity, and there's so much uncertainty, and they're all over the place. They don't know which way to look. So that's what I love about my job, though. I love being able to support young people, because especially now they need it more so than they ever have done. The amount of pressure that's on them through social media and the pandemic and their home lives, it's a blessing that I can still interact with them on a daily basis. What would we do without Zoom and Teams and things like that?
It's become a massive thing now with Zoom. So with primary schools, Mr. T, have you? What's it been like for the primaries? Obviously, you can only speak for yourself in your school?
Yeah, a lot of schools are doing, it's obviously taking their own approach, because obviously the guidance it's given, it's just right, deliver some home learning. So they've not, schools have to sort of discover their own way of how to sort of give that provision, haven't they?
Yeah.
And the provision this time looks so much different than it has in sort of, the earlier lockdowns.
Yeah.
So now at the moment, compared to before the provision, because it was sort of, no one was sure how long it was going to end for and whatnot, it was sort of, it felt like you were stopgapping in terms of, right, here's a bulk of lessons, off you go, and then there'd be another announcement, right, we need another bulk of lessons, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
This time round, because we know it's definitely going to be sort of 6-week period, 8-week period, we feel more sort of prepared for it, albeit like Martin's just said, a day in advance in terms of dropping that on you.
Yeah.
I thought it's very silly, very, very, very silly to go back on the Monday to do it on the Tuesday, to sort of let everyone mix together once again after Christmas and then to go back home.
Yeah.
I didn't see the logic.
Yeah.
The logic with that one at all.
So how have you found, like, how have your kids reacted? Because obviously they're younger.
Yeah.
What age are you teaching, by the way?
Mine are year 5, so they range from sort of 9 years old coming up to 10 years old.
Yeah.
And obviously I got to spend one day with the whole class on the Monday. And I said, we don't know what's going to happen this year and whatnot. And you just got to sort of try dig in. And even at that age, it's they've done so well. Honestly, you won't believe that, children that young, I think they're coping with it better than adults are, because they sort of can see it.
Yeah,
because they haven't got the previous experience of, really big issues as such in their life necessarily. There's sort of a lot of them are taking off a duck off a water back, to be fair.
Yeah.
But this time round, compared to the first time I think was sort of, if you can do a bit learning wise, and a lot of it, it was children were out getting really active, weren't they? Lots of fun activities. This time round, I know there's been a lot more pressure from the government to say that the home learning this time has to be a lot more rigid. So I know there's a lot more pressure on schools this time round, and then unfortunately that does transfer on to parents. And then,
yeah,
I know you're a parent, aren't you? It's not easy. I totally sympathise with parents, by the way.
Yeah, I think
totally sympathise with it, because
I think for me, because obviously I'm on like a part-time scheme at the moment with my work. It's slowly gradually coming back in, but obviously then the lockdown occurred, so then people stopped spending, which is I can't control. But the days I'm off, I'm teaching year 1 maths, okay? And we spoke about it before. My math skills are shocking, but I can do year 1. But there's a few questions on there I looked at, I was like, huh? What? But then year 6, no, I can't touch year 6 maths. No way. It's ridiculous.
There'll be thousands and thousands of parents across the country, banging their heads against tables, trying to figure out what's this and what's that. And I get it, because they're working from home as well.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard, and I really do sympathise with parents trying to obviously keep the house, look after the house, and sort breakfast and dinner, tea, and then at the other side, making sure the children have got an education, looking after your own job. Sympathise with the nation at the moment.
It must be.
That's what I wanted to ask in regards of having your own kids as well.
Yeah.
So you've got your own. Say like for me and Bids, we've got our own kids, but we do different jobs, right? But your job is about teaching other kids, so teaching our kids, while you've got your own at home as well. How do you do that? It's like if your kids are at different stages to these kids that you're teaching, how do you control that? How do you manage that? How do you work around it?
Well, I don't have kids myself.
Yeah.
So I've got the colleagues that I know that have got kids, that they're setting their kids up during the morning, teaching their lessons, because our provision is that we teach our normal timetable and we teach it live. So we use Teams. I program the lessons, I arrange the meetings, and I teach them to their timetable. But like you say, some of my colleagues that have got young children themselves, how they're managing between the two, I don't know, because I don't have kids, and I'm struggling. So I like Mr. T was saying, I completely sympathise with the situations that parents find themselves in.
Yeah, Mr. T, before we got into this, you said you've got a young one, haven't you?
I've got 2. Yeah, I've got 2. So my youngest, he actually does go to a nursery still, and I'm quite fortunate that my daughter, she's actually coming to school with me.
Oh,
so I'm quite lucky. Yeah, so I'm quite lucky in that respect. So we're Martin, are you teaching from home then?
Yeah.
Right. So for me, I go in every day still.
Right.
Oh, so why is that then?
So it was really difficult because like for the first week we were sort of teaching the children who are actually at school, because you won't believe the numbers that are still at school.
Yeah, it's quite high. It's quite high.
Yeah. I've seen reports across the country as well. You're talking some classrooms are half full. So you could have up to 15 to 18 children in class still, and these are sort of key workers. And I know the numbers for the key workers have broadened compared to the first lockdown. So for that first week I'll be honest, was hell, because you sort of teaching by the day and doing your best with the children then you're going home and trying to plan lessons for children to follow at home then. So for that week, I think you're doing like 16, 17 hour days. It was really difficult. And then catch up at the weekend, get a few lessons ahead. And now what we tend to do at our school, and again, every school might be different, is our TAs now, bless them, again, this is very difficult for them. They're delivering the provision in class for the lessons we're planning for home. They're delivering them in class, if that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
While I'm out of class planning for the next lot of lessons the next day, and so on and so on and so forth. So I'm sort of in. It's a weird situation. Yeah,
you constantly seem like you're trying to get ahead of each day.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'm sort of I'm in, but I'm not really teaching to the children that are in school, if that sort of makes sense. But I am in for like registering and I do teach the last lesson of every day.
Yeah.
So
these TAs in your school taking the lessons for you while you're off.
Yeah, working. And they're working through the PowerPoints we set. So it's slightly different to what Martin's doing.
Yeah.
We're sort of setting up PowerPoints.
Yeah.
Pre-recording our voices over.
Yeah.
With activities and whatnot. But again, it's just so different. It's so different, and it clearly takes longer because you wouldn't have to do voiceovers in your normal planning anyway. So the workload's high.
That's a lot. That's a lot of planning as well.
It is, and Mark, you'll know obviously, and I'm sure we'll come on to this where people say, "Oh, it's 9 to 3 job, weekends off, and blah blah blah."
It's a 9 to 3 job. It's a 9 to 3 job, homie.
Jesus.
I'm joking, man. I'm joking.
No, I know. You say no. We do at the moment. I'm doing 7 days a week, 100%, 7 days a week. So I know this morning I was at my computer at 8. Yesterday morning I was at my computer at 8, just so that he's going to have to be done. So try if I can get as much done in the mornings, mid-afternoon, so you just get some family time then. Just Groundhog Day. Wake up, work.
Wow. That's fair, because you just mentioned the quote of 9 till 3 jobs, and I've seen it quite often, like over the years. People saying, "Oh, you get all these holidays and you working 9 till 3." The easy job, blah blah blah. When really it's completely on the flip side, isn't it? You're not working 9 till 3.
Yeah, what you've just said now, I think parents and again, sympathy with parents. I think parents now are starting to, so it's opened their eyes a little bit to think, actually, this is odd. I've got one child here or two children here, and I'm finding it odd at home. Never mind 30 in a class, different needs, differentiation, and then the pressure of this child by the end of the year needs to be this, and this and this. So hopefully, I suppose from one aspect, I'm just hoping that a lot of parents sort of recognise that. And bless them, I've had quite a bit of feedback through an emails just thanking, for the work that we are doing and whatnot. And it's the sort of realisation of how difficult it is. If parents are struggling with one or two at home, albeit not qualified teacher, it's having 30 and looking after their mental health as well. And it's not just the sort of the academic sides. Are they happy? Are they unhappy? Are they affected about what's going on in the world? And then, like I say, the pressures from schools in terms of grades that they have to hit and whatnot. It's hard. And I know there's many, many hard jobs. Of course, there is many, many tough jobs. You look at things that go in the NHS, police, amongst other things. But we definitely got to be up there in terms of stress, daily stress and pressure.
How big is it though for morale to get like a little thank you message off a parent? It must be like a big morale for you, even one message.
It makes your day. It keeps you. It feeds you into your next. Then it feeds you into your next. It really, really does. And parents, they don't have to go out the way, because at the moment we're communicating via email, so they're taking the time out to log on, type away, putting the thoughts behind it, sending that off. Didn't have to do any of those things. Yeah, clearly. And then obviously that's recorded, and it's nice then to pass that on to head teachers, isn't it? Know that they're doing well as well, and the measures that they're putting in place is working. So
Sorry, I wanted to say one thing. Obviously, you touched on mental health and the kids' mental health and the things that you have to do in terms to help them. But this is a question for both of you. How do you take care, and how have you been taking care of your mental health during this time? Because obviously you've got to stay in the present. You then got to look into the future in terms of like planning. And then you also then got to mark work. You also then got to look after your family and stay present at home. With all those things going through your minds and like your thoughts might be flying, how do you both take care of your own mental health? How do you do it to juggle all of that? And with Mr. T, obviously you've also got your kids. So like, how do you both juggle that? We'll start with Mart first. And
so I'm coming from a place where I've struggled in my career with. Well, I didn't know it was a mental health concern. So I had a panic attack on my first day, but I didn't know it was a panic attack. So I was 21. I came up straight out of uni to teach, taught my first day, and then I went home and had a panic attack. But I didn't know it was a panic attack because that was 12 years ago, and there wasn't the same sort of conversation about mental health as there was now. And I went through years of like lessons going badly, and I was like crying in the staff toilets at the end of the day because the pressure was too much. And so I've always tried to be conscious of what the job is doing to me, but I think it's only been actually since lockdown started that I've actually been able to take time for my own mental health. So actually, I think my mental health as a person has actually improved during lockdown because I've been able to take time to go for a walk when I'd be in a faculty meeting or I'd be in another meeting where I'd be there for hours on end, which would be, it's important. Of course it's important, but I think the lockdown actually gave me a chance to have a bit of perspective because I'm part of a local theatre group. I play football. I live and work in the same community. So I try to do as much as I can. And I was stretching myself too thin. My dad's always said to me that I burn the candle at both ends. And through my whole career, that's all I've done. So during lockdown, just staying in touch with people, keeping those relationships that you've had built. Like I'm so lucky. The people I've worked with for my career at the school, I'm so lucky. The head teacher that I've got at the moment, she taught me when I was a pupil, and I've got so much respect for her. I reached out to her during lockdown saying, look, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that. My partner, she's incredible, because for years, like Mr. T was saying, you spend hours and hours and hours marking of an evening. So I'll work all day and then I'll mark for 5 hours, and I've said 5 words to her all night and all day. And it's not fair. And I think during lockdown, working at home, I think it actually helped me to get some perspective and start reaching out to people more. So yeah, long-winded answer to your question, Monty, sorry. Just like being more open, just talking to people about how you're feeling and getting some fresh air and keeping those relationships going that have stood you in good stead. But in no way, shape or form have I got it sussed.
Yeah.
Because like you're saying, it's just changing day by day, you know?
Yeah. And I don't think you ever will get it, like you say, as you just put it, I don't think you'll ever really get it sussed as such. I sort of agree with what you said, Mark, about the initial lockdown. Obviously, we were planning and whatnot, but the provision is totally different to what it is now. Obviously, this time around is a lot more demanding, and certainly feels that way. Yeah. So I was finding myself with a bit of time as well to go and enjoy, because you haven't got the sort of pressure of marking 30 books, obviously 3 lessons a day, or whatever, times 3, so 90 books worth per night or whatever. You go out and go for a walk, or you spend some time in the garden with your kid. Like, we had a lovely, the weather was decent, wasn't it, around that time? Some barbecues and local walks and on the bikes and that. And Monty is, I've recently not long changed jobs. I've been in my new job now for 18 months, like my new school. Before that, it was murder at my previous sort of school. So it was like I wasn't even getting the opportunity to take my kids' bed and read stories and stuff.
Wow.
And like as Mark sort of referred to, from sort of lockdown onwards, I was actually sort of feeling quite lucky that I could sort of lie down and have a cuddle with my kids to sleep and stuff, and read, be a dad. Because at the moment, previously, the balance was not there. I was teacher first, probably dad second, and then probably partner third, if I'm totally honest. And actually, it certainly shouldn't be that order, should it?
So how come you felt like that then in your old job?
Oh, it was, if I'm honest, it was just the sort of the culture of the school, down from leadership. I'm sure Mark, he's already sort of referred to that. I think if you had teachers in place in terms of everything set up there, and they're sort of fair in that respect, it's the ethos of the school and the integrity of the school. If you're only strong as your team, honestly. And that, as Monty knows this clearly as well. You're only sort of as strong as your weakest member, aren't you? And if it isn't working at the top, that filters down. And I was just about to come on to this actually. The amount of teachers that were leaving that place and is an industry now is ridiculous. And what Mark referred to earlier about, especially inexperienced teachers, I read a stat the other day that since 2017. People are leaving the job after a year. Don't know, qualified teachers. Wow. I think 1 in 6 teachers who qualify since 2017 are dropping out. So
that's a big loss,
15% of your newly qualified teachers are jacking it in after 1 year. Wow. And then to compound, and the reason why really it's linked to this one. Again, reading, it's a stat the other day that said it's only 1 in 3 teachers are leaving within 5 years.
Whoa.
So you're only retaining 66% of your workforce within 5 years. No wonder the new teachers that are coming they're leaving early because they haven't got the experienced teachers around them.
Yeah.
To help them. So, you know, Mark, I'm sure he'll agree with us as well. If you've got head of years and people like that, and they've only been in the job for a year or two, you know, experience pays. Experience pays in any job, doesn't it? And if people are inexperienced, they're going to feel the pressure a lot more because they haven't got the strategies to sort of help themselves and take them, you know, to take themselves through. So you need strong. It's all about leadership. And if schools have got strong leadership and experienced teachers, they'll be a great school. If they haven't, and you've got constantly newly qualified teachers coming through, as good as and talented as they may be, if the support mechanisms aren't in there for the mental health, they'll crumble and they'll be gone. They're gone within a year.
But isn't that what Ofsted's for? Isn't that the whole purpose of Ofsted?
Dear me.
I was waiting for that word to come up. I didn't know who'd bring it up first.
Well, I'm pretty shocked I did, to be fair, mate. I'll be honest with you. But do you get what am I right in saying? Isn't that why Ofsted is with us? To improve the school education and system and how it works. Right or wrong?
Right. So, I'll come at this angle.
Mr. T's on one. Come on, I'm sourcing it.
You go first, and then I'll see where I come in.
Right. So, whether the listeners know or not, okay. So a lot of the teachers' jobs first and foremost is to educate children, okay, and parents might just see that as a job, but actually, from a teacher's point of view, in terms of ed teachers and whatnot, they're judged, aren't they? And I've never known, you know, many jobs in the world where you are scrutinised pretty much every day or every other day for what you're doing. And Monty, you'll be able to relate to this so much clearly. We are your lesson. You know, you might plan away and think, all right, your lessons. You might spend ages planning this lesson. You deliver it. You might be feeling pressure because you've got 2 or 3 people in your room looking at you. Come out, no, that wasn't very good. That wasn't very good. And the feeling you get from that is just ridiculous. So everything's performance driven. Yeah. In schools, everything's performance driven. So from that, there's no doubt, and I've seen it happen first. I've physically seen it. Schools will cheat because ultimately schools are judged on gradings and league tables. Absolutely. So it's a league table.
Really?
It's a league table. Yeah. School. So at the end, when all the data is released from primary schools and high schools, schools will be graded as such as where they are in this league table. And if you're near the bottom, you get the knock at the door, and that's Ofsted.
Oh, you get the big knock on the door, Monty.
Ooh. Boom, boom.
So then, it's made it. So obviously, when that happens, then the scrutiny and the pressure goes up tenfold. Yeah. But who's not doing the job properly? Who's not good enough here? And that's what I mean. That's why I refer back to that support team, your culture of your school, because if that isn't there, people are just left out to dry.
Yeah. And with this league table, would it be down to the ed teacher? Because the ed teacher is going to be under a lot of pressure to get obviously better grades and a better standard within the school. But with that pressure comes stress. And with stress, that's when you start doing some quite drastic shit, okay? So like, his grade needs to be higher. I might fiddle that up a bit. Can that be done?
I've seen it.
Oh, you've seen it.
I wonder why they didn't do that for me when I was in school then. I left school with some bad marks, you know.
So you've actually witnessed this happening then?
100%. So
it happens.
100%. 100%.
Is this in primary school then?
Yeah. So what the way it sort of works, children will be tested at primary school at Key Stage 1 at the end of year 2 and then at the end of year 6. Data is then sort of given and produced. So children will sort of be either expected standard for year 2, expected standard for year 6, working towards that standard, or working above it. There's been obviously lots of teachers, and I'm sure Mark will agree again, you know, it's not a way to measure. The problem first and foremost for me is it's not a way to measure how, you know, how well children are doing, just to say, right, we're going to measure them on English, maths and reading. Done. It's not a fair way to sort of measure. And until that's changed, and that isn't from ed teachers, and you know, I'm not going to stand here and slander ed teachers, because there's some fantastic ed teachers out there. Yeah. But until the government initiatives change, the head teachers are always going to feel that pressure, so much so that they'll bend those rules to make that work. And until that pressure's not there from a governmental point of view, nothing will change.
That's mad.
And as a parent, you don't look at it like that. You just look at your child going to school and they learn. And the scrutiny and the pressure on teachers it all stems from that, and it all stems from. So, for example, Monty, if a child reaches expected standard at 7 years old, and let's just say they scrape through by a mark, okay, so the borderline anyway, by the end of year 6, they need to be the same, exactly the same. Otherwise, you are seen as a failing teacher.
So they're judging you, not the actual kid.
Yeah, because you are responsible for that performance, aren't you? So, for example, like I say, if a child hits expected standard, they've got to leave the school like that. And if they don't, then you haven't done your job properly. And then what happens with that, if you do get schools that sort of bend those rules for children, and I have seen it 100%, then the pressure then on Martin in high school is even worse. So, because if a child's coming to me in sort of year 4 and year 5, and they aren't what they say they are, because the data's wrong, then when they come to Martin, then they're double not what they say they are, if that sort of makes sense.
Wow.
So basically all this shit gets passed on to Martin. Come on and deal with this, mate.
And I'm certain Martin, you know, he'll be tearing his hair out and be saying sort of, what the fuck are they learning in primary schools? You know, what are they doing? And it is primary school's fault to a certain extent, absolutely, but it's maybe more so from that the data isn't legitimate.
Yeah. Wow. And like, so it's so interesting hearing you talk about that, because like it's not a world, because obviously I've been high school all my life. That's not a world that I've lived in. You know, I've not experienced sort of that, because I work on an exams based system. So, and because I teach a core subject, so I teach English. The world I've known is they work from year 7 up to year 11. So from 11 to 16, and when they're 16, they're examined, and the exam boards then spit them out a grade. So my kind of grievance is about kind of that end point. So Mr. T's talking about that year 6 end point in terms of like pressure and performance. What happens for us then? So when our 11-year-olds come through from primary school, they come with them this number that is given by either, it used to be the SATs grades, but like Mr. T's saying, it's now based on a teacher assessment. So let's say it's you, Monty. Let's say you turn up at a high school when you're 11 years old. You'll come with your name, your address, everything about you as a person. But the most important thing is that number. The number that you come in with, as that is your ability at that moment. And
that's wrong, isn't it? It doesn't matter if you're a good lad, Monty. It doesn't matter if you're a good lad, or you're a good footballer, good at art, or you're a good speaker or a good leader. You are judged on a number.
Yeah. And then what happens for us then is we have 5 years to take you from that number that you come in at and get you to this other number at the end, which means that I've done my job properly. And
apparently, yeah.
And the thing that
is it not that obviously as a teacher, right? You're there to teach, you're there to pull out whatever you believe is going to help this child progress, right? You've done your job, but then it's down also to, I'm guessing, us as parents to make sure that is accomplished, because they've got to come home, we've got to carry on with our job.
Yeah.
And
It's a partnership.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I don't. It's interesting.
Yeah, and it's funny because like, and this is kind of like Mr. T was saying. This is not. I'm not speaking against like my school because I love the school I work in. I'll say that to anyone. I absolutely love my job. It's the best job in the world. In terms of that 5 years that I have, I absolutely hate that I have to take pupil from a 4 to a 7 because for me in my job, there are about 20 other things that are far more important before that number. And I've taught so many pupils over the years that just getting to the end of year 11 safe, alive,
Yeah,
and with a smile on the face is more important. And you know, I could literally sit here for hours and hours going through pupils that I've taught that for one reason or another they were not going to get to the end of high school happy and safe. You know, I'm so blessed that I have a trust with a lot of our pupils, and I don't know whether that's because I'm local, families know me. I'm kind of synonymous with the school because I've been there for so long, and I now teach people who I went to school with. So you know, there's no barriers with me. I'm very honest. Pupils know where I live. They know my family. They know about my home life, and I don't have any barriers with them. So I've been very blessed over the years to have built up some really good relationships with pupils, and that number that hangs over them destroys some pupils. It absolutely destroys them. If they're told from when they arrive, when they're 11 years old, that in 5 years' time, you've got to get to, like, it will be a grade 9 now. So they got rid of like A to U. So it's now based on a number system. So grade 9 at GCSE basically means that you are within the top sort of 2.5 to 5% of the entire country.
Yeah.
Some pupils
That being smartness, like intelligent.
Yeah, that like the best. There, if a pupil in year 7 gets told that at the end of year 11 you're going to get a grade 9, you're basically telling them at year 11, at year 7, that they've got to be better than 95% of the entire country.
What?
That is so much pressure, you know.
It's so much pressure, and I'm really lucky.
I'm so glad that when I went to school, I didn't understand English.
But it's like Mr. T was saying, you know, it'll be the experience of this will be very different based on each school because each school has a different leadership and a different approach. I'm lucky with the school that I'm in because the school are trying to do everything they can to alleviate that stress. We're not telling the year 7s where they should be at the end of year 11 anymore. Yeah. We don't give them that number. We don't give the parents that number because it puts too much pressure on them. What we're doing now is we're giving them smaller, more achievable benchmarks. So try and get to this, then try and get to this, then try and get to this. And like Mr. T was saying, our job at the end of the day is performance-based. We have performance management meetings. We have targets to meet. And if I don't meet my targets at the end of the year, my pay is linked to that. So we could, as teachers, not progress in the pay scales because the exam boards at the end of the year didn't give a certain grade. And exam boards is another.
You're also getting marked as well along the journey.
Yeah.
Mark, you want to be judged on. You want to be like as a teacher. You know, those things clearly it's important if the children can do maths and write and read. Those skills are clearly fundamentally important. But you want them to be good people. Good social skills and leadership skills and being able to stand up and talk confidently and be able to recognize things like, oh, what strategies could you give if you're not feeling well or to help other people? And it's those things that really, they are the things that make good people and good citizens, aren't they, in the community? That's what you want, but you're not judged as a teacher, although you see the value in those things, massively see the value in them. You aren't judged on that though, are you? You are judged on those numbers and those percentages. Are they achieve you get Y and Z?
And do you know
And
why
that's why teachers,
that? It doesn't go into a spreadsheet.
yeah, and that's why. And again, I've seen teachers will rig data to alleviate pressure on their own, because they'll think, well, actually, you know, why should my pay be frozen? Why should I not achieve? I'm working my socks off here or whatnot.
So just
and they stretch. They stretch those boundaries. I've seen it. I've seen certain teachers stretch those boundaries, and it's wrong, because as Martin has just alluded to, and this is why Martin sees it day in, day out. These kids are set up to fail, and this is a lot. You know,
you are preparing this kid to fail anyway by approaching things in that manner. I think you are. Obviously, I'm not saying you two are, but it's just it comes from above you.
Yeah,
and it is preparing kids to fail. I think it's about focusing on what you said, Mark, in regards of like little steps. Because you could get someone that could be a late developer, for example.
Yeah.
And this kid might come into you with not so great grades, for example. And all of a sudden it gets to year 9, year 10, and whoa, where did that come from? Because along the journey, he might have gone home, for example, and starts taking care of his mindset work, mental health, caring about himself, and starts learning. And then he goes into school and takes that, something that you've not seen. But if you immediately pull pressure on these kids and make them feel either stupid, then all of a sudden it's like, I'm not good enough. And then that's what mental health or emotional health generates from sometimes from when we're kids, where you're told from an early age, by the way, you're going to have to go into this class because the other class is full of intelligent kids and you're not at that grade yet. But I think it should be done with the way you said, in regards of one step at a time. If this kid is not as good as we expect him to be, then what can we do to get him to that stage? Don't tell him. Just you as a teacher, as a community, as a group, should have meetings. Okay, that kid is not as good as we expected him. Obviously, you can keep that between yourselves. But then how can we take him to the next step? We'll go for step 1, step 2, step 3. And eventually, this kid's getting confident. He's having belief in himself. And he'll go home.
Completely agree, Monty. Yeah. And I think just exactly what you were just saying, I think everything comes down to relationships. So like, if you've got good relationships, like Mr. T said about partnership, and it absolutely is a partnership, and it's about relationships with people. And like you say about the pressure that it puts the pupils under, they know it as well. Absolutely. Because I'm teaching the pupils that are older, so I'm obviously teaching 11 to 16s. They know it. They know they're under pressure. They know the expectation. And I don't want to call it a mental health crisis, but the way that pupils are at high school at the moment, a lot of my job, and I do relish this because, you know, this is what I think is quite important. Well, it's very important. At the moment, a lot of it is just managing the pupils' well-being. And like we said before, you can't measure that. You can't measure it in a table. You get emails of parents saying thank you, and you get cards. And for me, it's like seeing pupils who you've taught be fully grown humans in the world. You know, I still get asked for references for pupils I taught 10 years ago, and they're off in the world doing something else. And I still get an email saying, "Hi, Mr. Kerr, are you okay? Can I have a reference? We haven't seen me for 10 years. Well, I don't care. You knew me."
That's class, isn't it? That, you know, there's no better feeling than that, is there?
Yeah.
And that's why we do the job.
Exactly. But then again, if you think about like, and again, this is not like school based or head teacher based. This is far higher. That will never matter in an Ofsted judgment. That will never matter in a performance management meeting. And that is not the school's fault, and it's not the teacher's fault, and it's not the head teacher's fault. It's the way the education system is built. The education system is built to to produce data. We are built to teach these pupils to a standard. They're assessed, and then we're judged on that assessment. The person seemingly doesn't matter, which is why, like, I'm such a big advocate for teachers being human beings and treating their pupils like human beings.
Yeah.
Not numbers, you know. And like I keep saying this, I'm very blessed with where I work. And Mr. T was saying that, you know, he's had a bad experience in a school he's worked in previously. I have colleagues in other schools around the country who don't have the experience that I have. They are in an exams factory where you've got to get the pupils through, you've got to get into this grade, you've got to get into this grade. And I'm so lucky to have a school that focuses on the well-being of pupils as well as the grades, because you've got to concentrate on the grades, because you'd be foolish not to. You can't just say, well, we don't agree with that, we're not doing anything. But, you know, it's just so hard as a profession, you know, having this pressure over you of getting these young adults to a grade. It's so hard. So hard.
So we've got some questions from the podcast community, which is on Facebook. So if you go on Facebook, you can join the community and get involved. All kinds of different stuff goes on. But we've got a few questions for the teachers here. Laura said, I'd love to ask them how they are coping in lockdown. Their workloads have increased and they're doing such an amazing job keeping our kiddos going. Really take my hat off to them all. So how you been coping with lockdown, boys? I said, I don't know. I don't know that.
It's like we were saying before, though, but like workload and stuff. I agree with what Mr. T was saying. I'm working a lot more, and because I'm not going in like Mr. T is. I'm at home. I'm finding it hard to manage the balance between work and home, because I'm working in the office, and it will come to so our lessons finish at just after 3 o'clock, and I'll stay on the computer for another couple of hours planning for the next day or marking. I'll go out for a walk or a run. I'll take the dogs out, and then I call it school guilt. So
I know.
I'm sure you know what I mean.
I know what you're going to say.
I get guilt, and I've had it all my career. I've had it for 12 years, and I still haven't found a way to not feel it. Like you were saying earlier, Mr. T, if I've got like a family occasion, obviously not in lockdown, I'd want to not go because I'd want to do some marking, because I'd feel guilty about not doing it. And I'm finding it hard at the minute to manage guilt, because if like my partner and we finish tea, we're watching some telly, I'll go and get the laptop and then just carry on working. And it can be easily 11:30, 12 o'clock, and I'm still working. But that's not even as bad as it has been. The years ago, I was second year of teaching, I was pulling all-nighters. I wasn't sleeping to mark.
Yeah.
And like I say, I'm managing better now, but the workload doesn't go away. You know, even if you've got a good way of managing the home life and the social life, the work doesn't disappear. And that's the thing about teaching, that if you teach and you just do your paid hours, you will not do the job right. You can't do it. It's completely unmanageable. If you just work the hours you're paid for as a teacher, you won't be a very good teacher.
Wow.
And you have to put the hours in outside of school. You have to make that sacrifice, because there's not enough time built in. Sacrifice, yeah. I don't know if you agree, Mr. T, but that's
no, you're right, because as we've just been sort of discussing, if you're not willing to put those hours in, again, when you are judged, you'll be judged poorly. And again, that adds on to your sort of mental stress and mental problems, doesn't it? And it's honestly, it's a horrible, horrible, vicious circle. If you get in a situation where, you know, you aren't supported by management or work in a school like that, it can be a vicious, horrible circle.
Yeah, it can.
Wow.
I've got one question before you move on. Yeah.
Go on then.
See, Mart, since you're teaching from home, yeah, you might have some kids that that might not. So if you go to school, you might have some kids that probably don't feel up to it.
Yeah.
All right, but they still got to stay in the class. So if you're teaching from home via Zoom, well, what would you do? How would you handle if a kid just turned off his screen?
Well,
it's really funny, Monty.
If a kid just went, you know what, I'm not doing this. I just turned off his screen and then
so like
come back. You can't physically go home and make him turn it back on. How do you handle that?
Can't. And so the way that I approach it, because like we do it through Teams, it works very similar to Zoom, and the pupils a lot of them don't have their cameras on. Because we don't ask them to. We don't force them to put the cameras on because they might not feel comfortable and they're at home and stuff. And I like that. I do think that approach works. But like you say, Monty, if I've got, say, my biggest class is 32. So I've got 32 icons on the screen. And it might just be like Mr. T's. It might just have their name or like their profile picture or something. I have no idea if they're there. I have no idea, right? I have no idea. So I then have to do like knowledge recall tasks or on-the-spot questions, cold call questions. I'll put like polls in the chat just to see if I've got them all there. And the systems that we have in place, I might have 32 kids in that lesson. I will then ask them to submit the work at the end of the lesson. I can then judge who's been there and who hasn't. So let's say I've got 32 pupils and only 20 have sent the work in. That then gives me a number. But then in the lesson, can't do a thing. Yeah. And I could be talking to an empty room. I could be putting my words out into an empty abyss. I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue.
Do you know with the cameras as well?
Yeah.
Have you seen some of the stuff that's been going on social media? Have you seen the video of the kid who's got his camera on during a class? I think it's in America, and his mum just walks in naked.
No.
Yeah. I bet that's happened so much, you know, and that's probably a good reason why you don't.
Touch wood. It hasn't for me.
If it happens, you've got to let us know.
I saw one. A friend of mine. He's a parent at a different school, and he received a text message reminding parents of responsibilities at home. Saying, "Apologies if you heard any inappropriate language this morning in the background. Make sure your speakers are off."
Yeah. Yeah, it's all right. My dad's playing FIFA. Fuck's sake! Fucking hell! Mate, yeah.
Fortnite more like.
Yeah, we had a game the other day, didn't we, bro?
Yeah, Fortnite Kings, mate.
Yeah. Right, Andy says, what inputs are kids given around the subject of mental health, and at what age does that teaching start? Now, this has been a massive subject for me because...
What a question. Holy moly!
Because
I'm excited for this one.
You can't teach mental health, okay? But you can give life lessons on it. You can bring awareness in a classroom. So
how do you approach it in a classroom though? How would you approach it?
So what inputs are they given around it? I mean, is mental health a big part in primary schools, Mr. T?
Do you know what? It's becoming ever so more prevalent now. Even from the little ones. You're talking like reception year 1.
Yeah.
Anti-bullying campaigns and how to recognise signs like that in terms of being kind and treating each other with respect and those sort of things. Those are massive. I'm just doing a current project with my school at the moment against discrimination. And these children are only 9 years old. And obviously with everything that's going on at the moment, we're teaching it through a book called Wonder. I don't know if any of you guys know it as a film as well. It's based around a young lad who's born with a sort of genetic disability. So we've used that book as a bit of a stimulus to sort of get discrimination out in terms of discuss it in the classroom, open-faced. And now we've sort of focused in on discrimination against footballers online and social media. And obviously with what's going on with Black Lives Matters in terms of this year, they absolutely love it. And it's so refreshing to hear 9-year-olds speak so passionately and recognizing that, you know, footballers and other people on social media, why should anyone be abused at all based on skin color, gender, you know, and to hear it from 9-year-olds and have that passion for it and to recognize it and sort of think, right, if we come across this in our life, we're going to challenge it. It's amazing. Really mature. You wouldn't. He's giving those kids that young the opportunity to be able to discuss these things, because they need to be aware. They can't live in a bubble where they, you know, where they feel like, all right, okay, racism doesn't exist, or people aren't prejudiced against for their religion or their beliefs or hair color, eye color, skin, whatever. So it is filtering down this young now. I know my next unit of learning is based around slavery and the history of slavery, which again is a massive eye opener.
What about our school?
You know, I think Mr. T's just taken the words out of my mouth. It's becoming far more prevalent. Yeah. And, you know, in curriculum, so adaptations are being made to make curriculums far more inclusive. And it is about just giving pupils the opportunity to speak, to discuss. Yeah. I've mentioned about like tutor times and tutor work, and, you know, one of the things that we are really encouraged to do with our tutor groups, we have 20 minutes in the morning with our tutor groups, is to just talk to them. Yeah. Just give them a platform. And we have things like house assemblies where we're given information to discuss, which have got a topical focus. And a lot of the time it will come back to stigmas around mental health and what you should do, and signposting, triggers. And, you know, it's probably the same messages that are going out at primary school, but it's becoming so much more prevalent. But I think the thing for me is, again, it's about the ethos of the school. Yeah. Creating that inclusive environment where pupils who have a mental health concern, or if they're struggling with their gender identity or their sexual identity, or they're struggling because of issues around race, hair color, home life, they've got to have an inclusive environment where it's okay to speak about it and it's okay to talk about it. Yeah. We teach of mice and men in English, and, you know, if you've not heard it, it's a novel about 1930s America. So one of the prevalent issues is racism and slavery. And it's such an eye-opener. We teach it at year 8, so 12 and 13-year-old pupils. And just having this conversation with them about what racism actually looks like, or what it did look like, and where the world was 70, 80 years ago. But then where are we now? And what impact does segregation have? What impact does discrimination have? And to take like a novel like that from an English perspective, that then filters into the rest of their life, because there are, you two know, which is, you know, why we're here now. The stigma around mental health it's poisonous, you know, and it stops people from speaking about who they are and what they're feeling. And yeah, I think definitely at the moment, I think schools are doing as much as they can to try and break down those stereotypes. Yeah, because that's go on, mate.
Monty, I say that you sort of like, in terms of changing stigmas, it's the primary school children, the young children that are going to do that. They're the future, aren't they?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think we've had this conversation before as well, where we can all sit down here, right, and discuss topics, but we have been brought up, and a lot of things have been installed in our minds already. the way we live, the way we can handle things. Like, and a lot of people, obviously, like ourselves, might be in a position where they're willing to change the way they think and do their own things. But some people are too stubborn to carry on living the way their granddads and their great granddads dealt with things back in the days. And I think we now, especially you two, got to our teachers and parents that in the chat now, and for the listeners, it goes down and it goes back. How do you make a change? Is with the younger lots.
Yeah,
teaching
it's
them.
generational, isn't it? It's generational, isn't it? In terms of, a child asked me, said, "Where's racism come from?"
That's a good question.
And
that's what I'm saying.
Say again, sorry.
That's what I'm saying. If children's asking you that, and then if you know where, if you are educated enough to understand where it's come from, I think you should teach, and you should actually make them understand where it's come from and what is racism. So then they can understand if they say a certain thing, it's not right. And if they hear something, report it or
challenge it.
Or challenge it, yeah, tackle it. Because if you have a conversation with someone who doesn't really understand, say, about, we'll go back to obviously racism or mental health. If you talk about mental health to someone who's been sort of like, what would you say? Forgot the word, man. But so like brainwashed to believe in something, right? And you try to have the conversation with them about mental health. Oh, you know, it's okay to speak. An adult, for example, a lot of adults will have an argument with you. I can't do that because that's not how I've been brought up. And I've had the conversation with a lot of people. I'm like, look, that generation is gone now. You know, we're living in a new era now that it's okay to speak. You're not going to be judged. No, but you know what? The way my granddad, the way my stepdad, the way my dad used to do things, I can't do that. I can't speak. Well, what do you mean you can't speak? Like, what is wrong with talking? But if you start having this conversation with our kids in schools, at home,
yeah,
it's going to help massively. Because then when they get to our stage now, I believe then they're going to be talking the way we're talking now. It's going to be more like normal.
Well, they'll be stronger mentally, won't they?
They'll be stronger.
Because I spoke with an ed teacher, rang me the other day. I think it was last week, and because I wanted to find out about, you know, what they were bringing in to it was a primary school ed teacher, what they were bringing in to their school to raise awareness on mental health. And what I heard was absolutely amazing. They've got their own mental health team, which just specialise in that area and that area only. So, you know, they don't get carted off to a classroom to cover someone. They are there for the purpose of that child's mental health. And they also have someone coming in like every Friday, have like a cup of tea, biscuit, and a chat with the kids. Just general question of, you know, is everything all right? And these kids, you know, are talking. It's amazing from what I heard. And I have got a contact that I can get on the podcast, which I think will be a great chat. But from what I heard from that primary school, it brought me a bit of hope. It really did, because, you know, I can only comment on what I've gone through as a student. Was pretty shit. Like when I was in high school and primary school, all this was just coated under the carpet. Now I'm a parent. I'm witnessing different things within the schools that my kids are going. And yeah, I might not agree with certain things that they're doing, but if it's going to help my child in the long term, then I've got no issues with that at all. So, you know, with the mental health aspect, there is hope there, massive hope there, and it is being spoken about a hell of a lot more. You know, you go to a shop now, someone might say, "Are you okay?" Like before, I'd be like, "Yeah, fine, mate, I'm fine." When really, I want to kill myself. Or now it's like I'm in a queue at a shop. It's like, you know, "You okay, mate?" It's like, I had a bit of a tricky week this week. And I tell you now, if you say that to someone, you go and get either a good reaction or a bad reaction.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Because if someone says to me now, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No." And some people be meant. Some people be meant and be like, "All right, let's have a chat." Others would be like, "All right," and I'd kind of squeeze that to the side and not talk to you. People are scared of speaking. Like we speak about it every week, and we won't stop speaking about it. We won't.
Right, we won't stop speaking about it.
We won't, mate. But I wanted to let you know about that phone call they had, because the day that she rang me, I was feeling pretty shit. I don't know why. I just woke up in one of them moods. You know, what can you do? And then when she rang me after that call, it lifted me, man. It really lifted me, because I think it was grating on me about like the mental health within schools. You know, I was thinking, I don't work in a school. I don't know if, I don't know what they're doing. You know, is my child's mental health protected? Are they learning about this? Are they gaining experience about mental health? And I didn't really get any answers. You know, people can come to you online and be like, "Oh yeah, I support what you're saying. I support what you're saying," but I need answers. And off that phone call, I got an answer. It's fucking brilliant. Amazing answer. Amazing. And again, that goes back to head teachers and leaders. The head teacher I spoke to, I know personally, she taught me for years throughout primary school. But wow, when she rang me, I was just like wicked. Like, why can't all schools have the same system in place? Like, would that be easier, or is it all down to the area you're in? If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if all schools have the same system in place, all teachers, all schools are on the same wavelength. Just an idea, Mr. B, Mr. Boris Johnson. You know what I mean?
We need to get him on a podcast soon.
Hey, that would be a classic podcast, sir. But anyway, I'm sorry about the rant, but start to drop that in. But anyway,
it was nice to sit here and listen to, Vince.
You're welcome, mate. Anytime. Right, final question. This is brilliant. Matt says, "What would you like to say to those idiots that say teachers are part-timers with huge holidays as opposed to overworked, underpaid, and highly stressed heroes?" So, Mart, what do you want to say?
How do you feel about that, Mr. T?
What do you want to say to them?
Get fucked.
Yeah, get fucked.
Hey, mid. Wait, hold up. You know why I like this question, yeah?
Yeah, go on.
A lot of people those who play football, that's what they call them, part-timers.
Yeah, so you're a part-timer, aren't you, pal?
Hey, Marty, part-timer, go ahead, man, take it away.
What I want to say to them, you know what? Over the years, I've become numb to people saying that to me. Yeah. And people say it in jest. People say it as a joke. People I've known for years. People I class as friends say that to me. Like, "Oh, it's right for you because you've got 13 weeks off." And when it comes from someone who knows me and they know my sacrifice and they know what I put into my job, I can kind of smile and let it go.
Yeah.
When it comes from someone who is scapegoating a teacher, because they've got no one else to target. It just makes me feel really sorry for them, because I cannot, as someone who loves my job, and this is the only job I will ever do. I have no other skills apart from teaching, because it's basically performing an act in front of people, and this is the job I was born to do. I'm not going to tell Monty how to be a footballer. I'm not going to tell Bids how to be an electrician. I'm not going to tell a doctor how to be a doctor. So
you tell the T how to be a teacher.
Yeah. So if people have got this opinion, let them have it. But all I would say to them is, come and follow me around for a day.
Yeah.
Come and see what it actually looks like, and then tell me if you feel the same way.
What about you, Mr. T? What are you saying?
I stick with my original 2 words, I think. No, I agree. I totally agree with I couldn't literally times do what Mort said.
Yeah.
You literally just come follow for a day, because they'll soon very, very, very quickly regret it. If I'm honest, once you understand the pressures that you're living under and the sacrifices you have to make, and that's the word really that comes down to, isn't it? Sacrifice.
Yeah.
I think something that we spoke about before we got on a podcast, that the amount of sacrifices that we have to do in, obviously, you guys as teachers and everyone else, whatever job you've got, there's sacrifices. No matter what you do, but to stay at that job and do what you love doing or what you're working, it's hard for you. I could, like Mark said, he couldn't come and tell me how to be a footballer or call me a part-time, because he doesn't know the sacrifice I've got to do. He wouldn't tell Biz how to be an electrician, because he don't know how many cables he's got to untangle and whatever he's got to do. And Mr. T, obviously, he wouldn't tell him how to be a primary teacher, because there's difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Different levels. But each job, whatever we do, it comes with a sacrifice, and just show some kindness, people, man. Be kind out there.
Yeah.
Monty, what right has anyone got to judge someone else on their job and how they work and what they do? You know, what gives them the
got it right, man. Obviously, in terms of football, fans would say they've got it right, because obviously they pay to watch us play, which is understandable, and you got to respect their opinions for ourselves. But what I don't understand is when some fans will say we'll play bad on purpose, because at the end of the day, it's our jobs, it's our careers, it's our families' livelihoods and our kids, and not just that, it's people's lives as well, like at the clubs. Like, I don't know, I would never go to a football game and think I'm going to play bad on purpose today, because at the end of the day, I'll be letting myself down, I'll be letting my family down, I'll be letting the club down, I'll be letting the fans down and my teammates down. And then if I'm playing bad on purpose, like a lot of people would say out there, like as a team that sometimes we'll play bad on purpose, we play League 2 football. We are privileged. We're grateful for what we do and we're blessed. But don't forget that each year we're on trial. We're not on Premier League wage, for example, or Championship wage, that if a player at that level gets released, he will probably have enough in his bank to start something new and look after his family, for example. But for us, it's a constant trial. Whether you're signed or not, it's a constant graft, it's a constant trial. I want to stay in the game as long as I can. And you're getting judged based on you get judged everywhere you go, but you just got to be mindful of the things you say. Because I wouldn't expect one of you to, for example, go into your school and say, you know what, I'm going to teach this kid bad on purpose today. You get me? Yeah, I don't think you'll do that.
Yeah, and like we were saying before, it's that perception that other people have on the jobs that other people do, and it's so negative. Like you say about football, like the job that you do is so public, and there's no hiding place. You're maybe not so much now because you don't have fans in the ground, but obviously you've got people watching, like on the stream or watching.
It's probably worse now, I would say.
Do you reckon?
I'll say it's probably worse, because obviously you'd understand their frustration from fans not being going into games, and then they're having to obviously stay at home and then watch the games. While going to the games, they'll come, insult you but then they go have a drink and then they sort of forget about it. But they can't do that. So then they stay online and they turn that laptop, their phones or whatever, and let us batter these guys. Luckily, I'm not on Twitter. but but I have been showing a few things that people say, and I'm like, wow. Like, for real?
I think my answer to Matt's question would be, to that person that's saying all that bullshit, maybe sacrifice one of your days of watching fucking Jeremy Kyle on ITV repeat shit and go and be a teacher for a day. How about that? I bet you they wouldn't sacrifice that day.
A lot of people make excuses.
Yeah. Always going to happen, mate. So we have a nice fact to end on.
I thought I was gonna play. You know what? Yeah, I thought he was gonna do the game challenge.
That what we did last week. Did you like that?
Yeah, it was alright, man.
You like that, did you?
Wasn't too bad.
You didn't do very well, did you? Because you didn't guess the murder.
Well, I done alright though.
Do you remember it? Do you remember his name?
Carlos Ortiz.
No, Acosta. So today's fact. Okay, we're going to end on something nice here. So the airline company Boeing. I don't know if you know this. If you know this, you know we've got 2 teachers in there. They might already know. So Boeing used potatoes to test their in-flight Wi-Fi. Do you guys know this?
If you don't know that, I don't think you're great teachers. There you go. I'm judging you.
No pay rise this year.
Yeah, can't do that. As they reflect and absorb.
What do you mean? So they eat potatoes for what?
Oh, you're straight on money, aren't you? Here, look at this. As soon as he is pay rise, money's there. Boom. Interrupt me, mate. You were interrupting a fantastic fact right there.
Sorry, go on. Go back to potatoes then.
Yeah. So Boeing used potatoes to test their in-flight Wi-Fi. As they reflect and absorb the signals similarly. We've got the similarly to people. Monty's there. Yeah.
I don't need to get this fat out, mate.
Hey, I was on fire then, and you interrupted me. I'm blaming you. I was on fire.
Try again.
I was on fire.
Again.
My reading was on point.
Again.
My reading was on point. And as soon as you heard money, mate, boom, straight away, interrupting the sentence I was doing. So, yeah, it reflects and absorbs the signals similar to people. I'm changing the word. Okay? The project is called, here we go, boys. The project is called Synthetic Personal Using Dialectic Substitution. Which is what? What's that? Spuds. What?
I was trying to spell it. In my head. Yeah, okay. Spuds. Yeah.
Synthetic personal using dialectic substitution. Spuds.
Wow.
So when someone says now, peel the spuds, you know why? You know why. Monty, interrupt me again, pal. I don't care if you're still in isolation. I'll come down the arse and knock on the door.
And I'll open it, man. I'll let you in, homie.
No, can't do that, mate. You got COVID. I know your isolation period's up, but you still got COVID now.
Oh, man, I'm so glad,
You've got COVID in your system now for 3 months.
No, man. I'm clean now. It's
gone. You still got it in your system, mate. That's why they don't test you for 3 months after, apparently.
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah. So
you can't give it to anyone, though, can you?
Yeah, you can still pass it on.
No, you can't.
You can just because you've had it. Yeah,
No, so what I'm saying,
that's why you're in isolation.
yeah, but what I'm saying, my thing's done soon.
Yeah.
In a couple of hours, basically.
Yeah. The transmission is 10 days, isn't it? That's why you've been
Yeah,
isolated.
and I've done my 10 days now, mate.
But you still got COVID in your system. But you can't pass it on.
Just stop talking about COVID, man.
Trigger.
Now, before we end, I wanted to say one thing that obviously we're talking about the way we're judging, and when I mentioned something about Premier League and Championship footballers and that, even say so, no matter how much money those players actually earn, they do actually still suffer as well mentally, and those guys still struggle. So don't take what I said in terms of like Premier League footballers, they get released and all that. They still have their own lifestyles and whatever they do and however they live their life that will affect them as well. So I want to clarify there, homies. I love you all. Be more kind. Show some love. Appreciate yourself and appreciate everyone.
Lovely, mate. Your words inspire people.
I love you all.
Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're getting
before we go, now that you're saying that,
go on, then.
People watching the videos. We're getting views.
Oh, we're getting a lot of views.
If you're getting through the video, please, we're begging you to just press the like button. Subscribe, man.
Yeah.
If you're getting through the video, please just show us some love, man.
Drop a comment. Drop us a comment. We'll reply. We're kind people. We don't mind that. We reply. Yeah, there's a lot of love on YouTube at the moment. And we've got a giveaway. So as soon as we get to 100 subscribers, which we are very close on doing, giveaway, special, mate. And also another giveaway, which is happening next week because we've got David Cottrell on next week.
David Cottrell.
Got a giveaway.
Ex-Premier League, ex-Wales international.
Played with
this man. And
it'll
be interesting. It's going to be interesting because he's someone who has played at the highest level with incredible players and has had to retire due to
mental health. And also, look what I'm wearing. Oh, yes. They've arrived.
Get subscribing, people. Get subscribing.
Yes, and all the information will be in the description. I want to thank Mort and Mr. T for coming on today. It's been mint talking. We've had some bombs, we've had some laughs, we've had some proper insights of what it's like being a teacher. Proper insights. So, boys, thanks for your time. Because I know you haven't got a lot of it.
Thank you. It's been a privilege, mate. It's been brilliant. Yeah, thanks for asking. Thanks for asking us. It's been great.
Cheers, gents.
Pleasure.
Take it easy.
Pleasure.
Thanks for viewing. Thanks for listening.